Hello and welcome to Jennifer Knatters, my knitting and nattering video podcast. Today is the 26th of May, and it has been about a little over 2 weeks since my last video podcast. I actually have some finished objects to show you, so that's nice. I have just been so busy in the last couple of weeks. As I mentioned, my BFF from middle school, Miss Chrissy, and her family have come for a visit, and we have managed to convince them that Scotland is the best place in the world. And so they're going to see if it's where they can move to and be close to us, which is going to be wonderful. And since I started this podcast as a way of I was going to say keeping in touch, but obviously this is pretty one-sided, of putting out there information about myself for Miss Chrissy, my impetus to do this a lot kind of was less. But yeah, let's get on with the knitting. My first finished object I finished just tonight. So I've got them on sock blockers, but they have not been blocked. I just put them on to kind of stretch them out a bit. And this is my Munlochy socks by Claire Devine, and this is in the Killen sock, which is a BFL mohair blend, a nylon-free sock blend. You can see there's a bit of patterning on the heel as well. And this is from Black Isle Yarns, and this is a hand-dyed indigo colorway. It's just, a small batch yarn, small batch dyeing, and they are finally done. They are going to sit a little funny on the sock blockers because I didn't realize this when I put them on the sock blockers. I made shaped toes, so they are, I guess they're symmetrical. They are not identical. They have shaped rounded toes, so they will look like this when they are on my feet. And I'm experimenting with this kind of toe. This is my first pair I've finished and will be able to wear to see if it is more comfortable. I do find with a regular wedge toe, after I've been wearing them for a while, one side's a little more stretched out than the other from my big toe, and I could alternate them to even out the stretching, but I've been just keeping the big toe side on the big toe. And so I thought I would properly do a pair of shaped toes. My feet go just very round. Well, it's not quite as sticky uppy, but it's very round on one side and pretty much straight on the other side. So that is what I knit. This yarn is I bought it back in October at the Loch Ness wool knitting show, and at the time it was a pretty new wool, and the owner, the proprietress, mentioned that she would like feedback on how they hold up, if they do in fact make good sock yarn. It's a fairly loose ply, which I've talked about before, which isn't always a good sign in socks. A tight ply means the fibers will hold together better, they'll wear stronger. But both BFL and mohair are very strong natural fibers. BFL blue-faced Leicester is a type of sheep known for its long, strong fiber staple. So she'd like feedback on how they hold up. I'll be honest, I do not think that these socks would necessarily handle being boot socks that get lots and lots of wear. But I think I'll wear them around the house for a bit, wear them in shoes for a bit, see how they hold up. If they don't look like they're going to be very strong, then I'll just make them bed socks. I broke a bone in my foot a long time ago now, probably close to 15 years ago now. And at night, especially in the winter, if the room gets cold and my foot gets cold, my foot will hurt a lot. Like if I wake up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet, I won't be able to put any weight on it. And I find that sleeping in socks helps. And I also find that synthetic fibers feel weird. So these synthetic free, very warm fibers should be good for that. But they're deliciously squishy and soft and fuzzy, and I cannot wait to get to wear these. Catherine has already worn them. She put them on. I left them in the bed while I was getting ready, and she put them on. But she has not walked around in them. So yeah, I finally finished those. I cast them on in October, and I'm really happy to finally have them done. They are not a walking around kind of sock. They were just, the pattern required just enough attention that they were better as a kind of sat out here in the conservatory project that I could pick up, or if I had just a little more attention than not looking at my knitting at all, which is my normal walking around sock. If they were, then that was a thing I worked on, and they had no deadlines or anything, so they were not a priority project. So October to May, finally done. And if that seems like it took forever, my other finished object, my Braevall cardigan, which I am wearing, I'll see if I can pan this down a little. La 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 la. I'm not sunburnt, that's just the light. My Braevall cardigan that I'm wearing is finally done. I cast it on just about a year ago. Today's the 26th of May. I cast it on the 28th of May. I think I actually cast it on the 27th, like an hour before midnight last year. I bought the yarn 2 years ago, this weekend in May. This weekend is my birthday. My birthday is the 28th of May. So this is very much my birthday Braevall. And the Braevall is a pattern. The sleeves are a bit tight, so I can't really wear a sleeved shirt underneath it. But it's warm and soft and snuggly. This is the lace detail at the back, which is really the pièce de résistance on this one. Otherwise, it is a very basic looking cardigan. This is not a criticism. Wardrobe staples are very easy to wear. The reason you like boring store-bought jumpers and cardigans is because they're easy to wear and they go with everything. So this from the front, the pattern does say to do a ribbon, line a ribbon, and then sew on fake buttons and poppers. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to do that yet because it does fit really nicely as an open one. And I do have some shawl pin that I could close it up if I just want it pulled close, but it does wear very nicely as an open cardigan right now. So that's, for now, what I will do with it. I can always change it in the future. But it is absolutely a wardrobe staple style cardigan with this interesting detail on the back. The lace, it dips down on me. The pattern is by Emily K. Williams, and I've seen her in person. It's absolutely gorgeous. And on hers, the back panel kind of stays straight, and it just gives her a bit of ease in the back. And I'm using the Solvin, Ripples Craft Solvin, which is, I don't have the blend on this page. Hold on, sorry. I didn't talk about it last time. I just need to find a page where I wrote out the blend. I'm really sorry about this. Talk amongst yourselves. That was a joke. Was it funny? I know it is a merino silk. I want to say like Quivet or something. Braevall merino yak silk. So a merino yak silk blend. It is very warm. It is very densely spun. That was the one thing I didn't like about it. Because it is such a dense yarn, and such a heavy blend. The color is not a deep saturate, so it's not splitty. I was not catching it on my needles very often, but I was using sharp needles, and so every so often I would catch the fiber and split it with my needle. If it's split open, it is white inside. It is the undyed color, because the color doesn't penetrate very deeply. But it's a very drapey yarn. I know Emily knit the original in a toothier yarn. So mine has all that extra drape, which gives that back panel a lot of flow. And it just, I mean, the colorway is Summer Swim, and this is like water. It flows like water. It is a very wearable style. I only finished it, I blocked it last night. I'd had to redo I didn't like the bind off I did on the cuffs, so I wound up having to redo both of them after I finished. I'm wearing it a bit short at bracelet length. The sleeves do pull down, but I have found the style watch band I use can snag fibers, so I like things to be just a little short, and since this is a lightweight one, I've been kind of pulling it up a smidge to get it kind of to my ideal length. But it's very wearable. I don't remember what I was saying. I only finished it. I redid the cuffs last night and then blocked it. I did block this straight, but it is curling a little, which I believe means I knit it too loosely because it was knit. The button band was picked up and knit. I feel like my cast off was on the wrong side. Yeah, it would have been, because when I wove in the ends, they were both where I started and where I ended were on the same side, so that'd be the wrong side I cast off on to get the length that I wanted, the width for the ribbing. So I guess I did it too loosely, which would be why it would curl the direction it does. I'm not terribly bothered. I think wearing it if I added a ribbon and did the poppers, it would be flat. And if I don't, I think as an open one, it looks fine having the curl. Like, it looks like a design element rather than a feature, rather than a flaw. But again, I can always go back and fix it. It took 4 skeins of Solvin. They're 100-gram skeins. They're a bit short on meterage because it is heavy. So it's 330, 360 on the meterage. That is not an unusually short meterage for a 4-ply. But I've got I bought 5 skeins. It used 4 skeins. I'd say I probably have about 10 to 20 grams left. I didn't measure what I had left. I've got 2 small balls, and then I have my swatch. So I've got plenty left over. I knit, I don't remember what size, but I think there were at least 4 more sizes larger than the one I knit. So fairly middle of the road size. I only used 4 skeins. Sorry, my eye's a bit itchy right now. And yeah, I am absolutely delighted. I love the way it fits. I liked the way it fit as like a waistcoat before I added the sleeves. I was like, oh, I could wear it like this. That'd be fun. So yeah, it's gorgeous and I love it. And I think the pictures on Ravelry maybe don't do the pattern justice because it hasn't gotten a lot of love. But I know I saw it in person and I was absolutely, like, the second I saw it, I knew it was one I had to knit. And Emily had gone on a knitting weekend with a bunch of friends of hers and she had it there, and at least one other person there had to knit it. I think we've got the only 3 Emily's, mine, and this other woman's. Last time I checked, there were just 3 projects. It is such a nice project. It's well written. I mean, a lot of it you kind of take, like, there is a point where you're doing a lot because you're doing, if you want short row shaping to add extra room for your fuller bust, then you're doing that, and you're doing neckline decreases, and you're doing stuff in the back. And there's a whole lot going on for a little while all at the same time. But if you just take it one row at a time, you just go quiet, you know, just stick with it. That was one of the reasons this cardigan took so long, was because I knew it was something I had to pay attention to. I couldn't do it if I was too tired, and I couldn't really do it if I was going to be needed, if Catherine needed my attention, or like if Christina was off school, Kitten was off school or anything. So this was very much a stolen moments, but long enough to concentrate on what I was doing, to pay attention to what row of the chart I was on. But yeah, I mean, like, once I picked up the sleeves, dead easy knitting. It was just round and round and round with occasional decreases. Although I think last time I was saying I needed to pick up the second sleeve, and so I didn't have it to show. When I finally went to pick it up and do it, I found I had, I guess it was even the first sleeve. It was the first sleeve, and I needed to pick up the stitches so I could start knitting it. And I already had, and I'd knit an inch. So I was like, oh no, I don't want to work on it. I have to think about it to pick up all these stitches. And when I finally went to do it, I had already done it. I can be silly like that sometimes. I am clearly very tired, so I apologize for the rambling. The last one I did was 2 weeks ago. The time before that was a month ago. I'm clearly very out of practice for staying on topic with this. So we'll move on, and I will not drop my sock blockers on the floor in a big loud clatter. The only other thing I have worked on that you've seen before are my baby ribbed socks for Catherine in the West Yorkshire Spinner 4-ply signature. I believe this is the Cayenne. I also have the Cherry Drop. Now my eye on this side is itchy. I'm sorry. I have turned the heel, and I have started working the gusset decreases. That's how far I am. I have spilled something on it, and I don't know what, but I've spilled something there. So hopefully that will wash off, and if not, Catherine basically stains everything or rips the knees out or something, so not a big deal on toddler socks. I did for this one wind up pulling off a ball and knitting with it, but my scale was doing weird things, so I was trying to pull off a certain amount, and then I realized I'd pulled off more and I didn't have time to wind it back, and my scale was still being all weird, so I'm gonna have wasted a bit of yarn pulling it off there. But that is my brainless walking around, although turning the heel is not a brainless part. It is a bit where you do have to pay attention. So those are almost done. That's the second one there. So I need to do the gussets in the foot, and her foot's only about that long anyway. She wears a UK size 6. That will not take much time at all if I actually work on it. That was something I was really only working if I didn't have the brain power for anything else, or it was something like at church. And I want something where I'm not having to look at it. I can keep it low in my lap and not have to look, so I don't disturb anyone else. I do not do well with sitting still without having something in my hands. So last time I told you about the things I wanted to finish, which, yay, I finished 2 of my projects. Did I sit down and go right to work on them? No, I did not. I cast on a cardigan. This one's for Christina. It's going to be Kitten. It's going to be top down. So this is the neck, and it has an integrated button band. So it's the neck and the shoulders, and it's going to be this really cute, large floral, I don't think you can see that at all, lace design. And this is Annie Cardi by Susie Sparkles, and I've got the pattern printed out over here. Let me just see. The wool I'm using, I did buy specifically for Christina, and this is Drops Baby Merino. I did not have the yarn information in my, I bought it for Christina, but apparently I didn't add it to Ravelry, so I haven't added it to the project yet. And this purple is a pretty close match for her school color, so she'll be able to wear it as a cardigan to school. She has started occasionally wearing her official school cardigan, but I think she would like to have, for one thing, this will be a little lighter. So especially, like, we've had some warm days where she's not had to take her coat with her. So she's worn her cardigan, but she might get more use out of a slightly lighter cardigan. And of the cardigans I've knit for her in the past, oh, I've got them. I've got 2 of them right here that I've washed to put away. This is another Ripples Craft one. This is the DK Merino, I believe. And this is Slice of Lime. And it is a pattern by Carol Feller from her short row book. And I don't recall the name of the cardigan off the top of my head. She picked out these buttons. And it's supposed to have a hood, which is where most of the short rows, if not, and then I buttoned it wrong to show it to you, which is where the short rows in this pattern are concentrated. And Christina did not want, did not want to have a hood, so I didn't knit one for her. So there's this one that she's recently outgrown, and when I finished it, I'm sorry, it's just out of reach over here. Let's all pretend I didn't do that. When I finished that, she said she wanted a blue a blue jumper. So I decided a pullover would be better for her, and she picked out this blue. This is a sitter, I think, or baby hayfield. But it is sparkly. I don't know if you can see that. And it's acrylic. So, same buttons. And this is a honeycomb pullover, which is from an Eden Cottage Knits book. Just do the buttons really quick. And these are too small for her, so the one that still fits her is the Katie Morrig pullover. I knit her for World Book Day a year ago, and she did not want to wear it this year. It's huge on her. I mean, that one doesn't fit her yet. But if I knit her a purple cardigan, she can wear that to school. And having finished a purple cardigan, I could then knit her something in a different color, that, because she says she doesn't really like purple. Now that purple is her school color, and she was on such a thing about not wanting to wear her uniform, she didn't want anything purple. She doesn't like purple anymore. But she's kind of eased off on the uniform thing. So that's what I'm knitting for her. And then I'm already 23 minutes into this. I usually aim for about half an hour. I'm going to skip to gardening. I have both done a lot in the garden and not really anything. I've been hacking back a lot of the shrubs. When we moved in, this is my father-in-law's house before us, and for the last several years that he was living here, he was a very avid gardener. The landscaping was all stuff he had put in. He was an avid gardener, and he wasn't up to doing gardening, so he still had someone coming in and like once a year trimming hedges and mowing the lawns. Well, monthly mowing the lawns, but it was really overgrown and not well tended. So in the almost 4 years, it'll be 4 years this summer that we've been living here, the first year I basically weeded. And then the second year I was pregnant and felt absolutely like just completely nauseous for 9 months, starting that summer. And then the third year I had a baby, and last year I had a toddler, a 1-year-old, walking around. So I've largely like I've been going out in the garden when my children needed to go out in the garden and needed to be supervised. And so I'm trying to get things under control. I don't know the plants. I love gardens. I don't have a green thumb. I'm trying not to have a black thumb. I'm trying to learn both about my house plants and my outdoor plants. So I'm still cutting back a lot of these plants to get them back to kind of the size they were supposed to be pruned down to fit the spaces, decide which things I don't like. My tastes do not have to match 100%. And a lot of the shrubs, especially in the front, things have grown together. Were they even planted together? Did they spread? So I'm trying to cut them back to individual units, decide if there's a couple that have grown together, which one do I like? Do I want to save all of them? Do I want to save any of them? I want more stuff that's edible, and native plants and pollinator friendly plants are kind of not in any particular order. Oh, and I like flowers. So those are the things I want to surround myself with. So I'm just looking out the window at my garden. I bought a bunch of stuff this year, whereas in the previous years I bought one or two things. We have planted bulbs. Is about the only thing we've really done a lot of. And Miss Christie came over and she planted, I bought a thornless blackberry and a clematis that have gone. I've got a trellis over here. They've gone on different sections on the trellis. So I now have 3 clematis, a honeysuckle, and a blackberry that'll be growing. And I still have a couple more sections of the trellis on the outside of the pagoda. It's a covered walkway, so it's kind of a cross between a very big arch and a pagoda. I don't entirely know what one would call that. And then there's a big raised beds, the split level raised beds garden. And that I kind of want to be more of a cottage garden. And I've got borders in the front and over here, and then there's the woods behind me. So I'm still figuring out where the light is, what time of year I get the light. If I cut things back, what do I have? But this year I've bought a lot of plants, and some of them have been potted. I've bought a lot of veg, broccoli, tomatoes, a chili, a whole bunch of herbs. I've got some of those broad beans, lettuce. I've got some of those potted. For the tomatoes, I got some big grow bags, and then I got some things where I'm just gonna plant them straight in the grow bag and see how that goes. I need to get composting going if I'm going to have a big garden and be taking care of it, but I don't have that going yet. I bought a bunch of dahlias, and they're little, and they got these bright flowers, and I thought, great, I'll put them in these small window planter boxes I have. They're going to get big. They're not going to fit in these window planter boxes. So I was going to put them in my raised beds over here, but there's a lot of shrubs in there that are really big, and I'm still in a process. It takes, like, if you cut, partially I'm going to hack it back, and if it survives, then wonderful, and if it doesn't survive, then it wasn't meant to be, because a lot of this stuff is so overgrown. But some of the stuff I'm like, well, I'll just hack it back a little bit and let it recover from that, and then I can cut it back more. So I'm still working on cutting back the shrubs that are in there, cutting them back a lot. So I think I'll put them in either containers, because I was hearing that dahlias should probably come inside for the winter. So they either need to go in containers, or I was going to put them in the front bed, and if they do die off, then I'll just get new ones next year. If you compare it to like the price of getting a bouquet of flowers, it's not too much to ask. So I've got stuff like that I need to take care of, and since I bought all this stuff, it has basically just been peeing down with rain. The one day it wasn't raining was Friday, which was Kitten's sports day at school, so I went to the school and watched her do her sports day. She did really well, for a certain value of really well, which is she was never going to win, and instead she decided to make sure that her best friend didn't come in last. They basically stayed together, the back of the pack. They were more interested in each other than the race. Her BFFs father was saying that he honestly expected them to stop for a chat in the middle of the race. The way they were going, they weren't last by a wide margin, but they were, you could tell, like, they weren't running full speed. They were kind of running and looking to see where their friend was. The last race was one where, like, they ran with a bean bag on a paddle and they had to put it in a bucket, and then they had to run and go through a hoop and then run and put a dome, like, hat thing on, and then run to the end. And Kitten got ahead of her best friend and stopped and turned around and waited for her to catch up. Kitten now denies this, but I'm like, I have it on video. You stopped in the middle of the race. You were ahead and you stopped and waited for your friend to catch up. And then you went on together. It was very sweet. I have no interest whatsoever in her pursuing competitive sports unless that is a thing she's interested in. Speaking of sport and her best friend convinced her to try Enjoy-A-Ball again. When I've picked her up after Enjoy-A-Ball, she said she's enjoying it. Every week when I say, you have Enjoy-A-Ball after school today, it's, I don't want to go. So we tried it for a month and I will have to cancel that again. We did this back in October. She tried it for a month and then didn't want to go anymore. So no more Enjoy-A-Ball. The other thing for the garden is I did buy some plants. My father-in-law had a little container pond, which is actually, I keep thinking when I'm not looking at it, I think it's a small barrel. It's a half barrel, although it's not a full, like, depth half barrel. It's a half barrel in a little, like, raised bed, rocks around, and he had it as a fountain. The fountain, he wasn't able to be cleaning it out the last couple of years, and we haven't done anything with it. In fact, we rewired the switch that used to turn the fountain on, so now it's a motion detector light in the back garden, because Chris's office is back there, so that in the winter months there's a light on and he can walk back to the house not in the pitch black. So I wanted to do something other than, it had a little ground cage you might put over a bird feeder so that robins and things can get to it, but bigger birds can't, crows and pigeons can't. And that was to keep the birds out of it as a bird bath, but we left it on to keep the children out of it as a potential hazard in the back garden. So I was looking online, and there are even places where you can order kits of I measured how big it is, and I could order a kit and have it sent here, but there is a penalty for living so far away. So I thought I will try going to the other garden center. They have a fish area. They sell koi and other things, pond things. They'll probably have plants. It cost about as much to get a taxi there and back as it would to have ordered these plants and had them delivered. But I got to go in person. It was a day out with my kids. I bought some other things as well. In my head, our pond is about that big around. It's actually a full-size half barrel. So I bought a bunch of plants. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be too much. I'm barely going to be able to get, they come in little mesh baskets that are then lined, and then they have pond soil and then rocks on top. So I was buying them as pre-planted things that can just be put in. You can plant them up or you can just put them in the water. And I'm looking, I got two that are reasonably big. And I thought, oh, I'm barely going to have room. I got two that were big and then one that's, more that size. And then an underwater oxygenator. And I thought I'm barely going to be able to cram these in there. And I wound up getting our ground is full of rocks. So anytime you dig, you're pulling out these good size stones. So I collected some of those that were over in another area and I put them in the bottom to put the plants at the right levels. And I got them all in there, and it's not even a third full. I mean, it's like a quarter full. I could have bought twice as many plants and still had a lot of open space in it. Because my husband said, Chris said the same thing, like you just forget. Like if you're not looking at it, you think it's a lot smaller than it is. So I'll give those a couple weeks and see how they're doing. It doesn't get a lot of sun. I wanted shade aspect plants to go in it. I had someone helping me. So we'll see if we got the right level of, there was full sun, part shade, dappled sun, full shade. I didn't see any that were particularly full shade, but the ones I put out there, we'll see how they go. I can get more of the same. I can get other things. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully the oxygenator will be doing good work in the bottom. So yeah, that's my pond story. And with the rocks in the bottom, I might even get, like, little frogs can get in and out. Maybe. Fingers crossed. Wouldn't mind some dragonflies or anything really coming to it. I put in, there's some reeds. I didn't even look at the label. I don't know what they are. There's an iris. There's some water forget-me-nots. And then I got an oxygenator for underwater that I didn't look at either. So pond, yay. And then family, I forgot to say last time that Girl Brigades ended. Christina and all the other girls did this little skit thing where they sang songs and acted out skits, and the oldest girls had done a cooking thing, so they demoed various foods they learned to make. Kitten's level, they made bars of soap. They added fragrance and dried flowers, and they made soaps, so we wound up buying a couple of those, which reminds me I owe our across the street neighbor who led the Girl Brigades 20p because I was short for buying. I gave her all the money I had left in my coin purse. I did not know I was going to be needing change for this, so I do still owe her 20p for that. They made soaps. We bought one of each of the different fragrances of soap, and Christina got her first 2 badges. So yeah, that was that. She had 100% attendance, I think. Maybe we missed one session, but she got one for good attendance and for her first year completed and whatever level they learned. So she got a couple badges, and they have little armbands that they wear, and they put the badges on. So she got her armband and her badges, and I cried at several points. I'm like, oh, she's tried so hard, especially because all the other kids in her level, the youngest level, were 8 by the end of the year, and she was 6 by the end of the year. She was so much smaller than everyone else. She's the only one who couldn't read yet at the beginning, and she can read now a little bit, but she's not a strong reader and stuff. So there were things where, like, they were singing along, and the lyrics were up on the wall. She couldn't read. She was just doing her best. She did such a good job. She was so wee and so, like, firmly concentrating on getting everything right. And I honestly, like, watching the videos over again, I cried again. And I didn't used to be, before I had kids, I was not a crier. So yeah, I'm so proud of her. I'm really proud of her in school. I'm really proud of her as a sister. Kitten is just doing an amazing job in general. And with the cousins here, she had her first sleepover at someone else's house. She spent the night at their place, and then one of the cousins spent the night here this last weekend. We've seen a fair bit of them. I mean, it's hard to say if we've seen a lot or not very much. Like when someone comes and visits on a holiday, you're like, well, cram in all the things. But they're here for a very long holiday, and we're still in school, so there's other stuff going on. So we're trying to see them as much as we can, as much as it's useful for both of us and everyone's getting their work done and everything like you're supposed to. So yeah, they're really getting on well. Like every day, Kitten's asking when will we see them. When I tell Catherine doesn't have the words yet to ask that kind of question, but when I say we're going to go see them, she's very excited. They're very excited, including the 1-year-old expresses excitement about seeing us. And Scotland is currently the top of the list of places to move they just need to get visa. I mean, they have other travels they need to do first. And yeah, they might move here, which would be wonderful. But obviously there's some learning how to get on and stuff like that we'll need to do to adjust our families. But yeah, we could have family, which is something we have not had, and they don't particularly have a lot of either. Yeah. I'm trying to see what else is on my list. It has just been really nice. Chrissy and I spent the US Mother's Day. We went and had tea together, just the two of us, without children. The taxi driver who took me there was surprised to see me without children. I had a mum date with the across the street neighbor who runs Girl Brigades, just two mums going out to dinner together, because apparently she asked her husband, who, like Chris, works from home, if he had ever seen me without the kids. And he was like, I don't think I have. And she goes, I don't think she ever does anything without the kids. I don't. But now I got to do two things in fairly short succession without my kids. So, yeah. Catherine got her nursery, well, she'd already gotten her nursery acceptance, but we'd had to submit what hours we wanted her to go, and she got the confirmation of the hours we requested, so that's really good. Her official placement starts next April after the Easter holiday, but we will pay to have her start in January. After she's 3, she can start. So, yeah, in like 7 months, Catherine will be starting. When she's 3, she will be going to nursery. And then suddenly the house will be very quiet for at least 3 hours during the day. And Chris and I will sit and go, should we put some music on? The house is so quiet. What will we do? It's so quiet. Which is what we did when Christina came along. Although I was already pregnant then, so it wasn't going to stay quiet for long. Yeah, we're almost up to 45 minutes, and it is 10:15. It has gone dark outside. I guess you can still see a little bit of blue sky up in the corner. But it has definitely gone dusk here. Yeah, hopefully I will do this more often. I finished my big projects, so for next week, I will have, I guess I could tell you if I get any good birthday presents. I know I will get good birthday presents, but not every birthday present is worth, my mother sent me a gift card. Yay, gift card! And I'm not being sarcastic. Gift cards are very, very useful. She sent me a gift card to Amazon, which is, if you're looking for an international gift card, that's basically the easiest one. Just about everybody else makes it very difficult to send a gift card in a currency other than your own. Amazon makes it really easy. And since we don't drive, we do get a lot of things delivered from Amazon. So yeah, but it's not like an exciting thing to come on and be like, yay, I got a gift card. I've been buying planting stuff with it. That's what I ordered soil, and I lost my gardening gloves. I have no idea where they are. How did they disappear? It's like I had them 2 weeks ago and now they're gone. So I ordered new gardening gloves, and I couldn't find my little hand rake. I'm sure I had a hand rake. Bought a new one because it's not in the potting shed, which is a very lofty thing to call our little shed that's right outside the conservatory, which is the only place it should be. My gloves should be in that box right over there. They're not in that box right over there. And yeah, so I've been buying stuff like that. Containers, things like that to go in my garden. My pond plants, I didn't order them off Amazon, but I will take them off that tally. Yeah, so next week there will be a new Boost Your Knitting project. I know it's been a while since I've talked about that, since it's been a while since I've talked at all, but I did have it done last episode. I got it done within a week, I think thereabouts, because they were just little Aran mitts. They knit up really, really fast. I even wore them one day. It has not been cold enough to wear them since. It's been rainy, it's been wet, it's been windy, but it has not been particularly, I mean, it's been chilly in the wind. Other than that, it's not been cold. So yeah, another Boost Your Knitting. It is a new yarn kit. They did announce the summer yarn kit, and I am choosing not to buy it. One of the things in it is Jamieson and Smith 2-ply, the jumper weight, which I knit. If you've been watching, I knit my my colorwork vest out of. I knit Catherine's colorwork vest that's now too small for her out of it. I have knit a lot of stuff. Two baby blankets? One baby blanket at least. I have a lot of different colors of Jamieson Smith and equivalent types of yarn. So I will go from stash for that if I can, or I will buy more in the colors I like best. And then there's a DK, a single skein of DK. And again, I will pick a color I like. I don't have anything like that in stash. If I had gone to the Dingwall Yarn Festival yesterday, that would have been the thing I was looking for. And then the other one is a couple skeins of Coupia sock yarn, which is a slightly thin sock yarn that comes in 50 grams. Last time we knit a bunny with, or a mouse with it was what we knit with that kind of quantity and colors. So I will see which of those is the May pattern, and then fill in as needed what kind of quantities will actually be used and what we're making, if I can pull something else out of stash or what, really. So yeah, I do not have anything planned yet for Boost Your Knitting, but they should be announcing that, I would think, fairly soon, so that people have time, people like me have time to order things before the project comes out on the 1st, if that makes sense. So yeah, next time, Boost Your Knitting. Hopefully I will have progress on Christina's jumper. New socks cast on for me, especially if I finish the little socks, but I think I'll cast on a new pair anyway. And maybe I do have one other, the pullover I was working on that I haven't touched the entire month of May, I don't think. Possibly not much of April. I think I started it back in March or April, and then April's Boost Your Knitting took pretty much the entire month. And then I was finishing this and my socks, so I haven't touched that one. Yes, now we're up to 50 minutes. Thank you for putting up with me. I hope you're having a good time, and I will talk to you hopefully next week. If not, certainly the week after. Good night.